Good afternoon, students. Today we are going to have the class of grade 3 science, and the topic that we are going to learn today is characteristics of living things, as I have mentioned already. So before entering into the topic, we are going to discuss on some of the words of the chapter that will be included in my description, and the meanings of the words that I will be telling you will be discussed whenever I'll be telling you, whenever I'll be explaining you the chapter. So first word is gills, second breathe, survive, sense, trachea, excrete and reproduce. These words may be new for you in this chapter, but the topic of the chapter is not new, because the same topic we have already discussed in grade 2 as well, isn't it? Yes, we have. So in grade 2 we have learned the characteristics of living things in short. Today we are going to learn characteristics of living things, and I am going to explain the characteristics in brief as well. So I hope every one of you are ready with your necessary stationary equipments. Okay, let's start. Yes, we know living things. The things that have life in them are called living things, and non-living things means the things that do not have life in them are called non-living things. Obviously, we are familiar with both of these terms. Yes? Yes, of course we are. Okay, moving on to the characteristics of living things. First one, living things move. Is it new for you? Obviously not. Okay, have you seen a fish swimming in water? Or a birds flying in the sky? A dog running? And a human beings walking? Yes, obviously we have. We have seen all the 4 activities that I told. Then, can you tell me what helps a fish to swim in water then? Fish, they have fins that helps them to swim in water. Similarly, birds, they also have wings that helps them to fly in the sky. Dogs and human beings, we have legs that helps us to move here and there. Most of the living things, they move with the legs. They have legs to move here and there. Whereas, as I mentioned, fish have fins, birds have wings. In a similar way, insects also, some of the insects like mosquitoes, butterfly, dragonfly, they have wings to fly, and also they have non-developed legs, that is, they have small legs to walk. So insects also, they have wings to fly and legs to walk. So what does it show is, every living things, they show movement. So can you think of any living thing that do not move? Did you think? Okay, think of the plants. Are they living things or not? Yes, they are living things. So, do they show movement? You may be thinking of touch me not plant. Yes, whenever we touch me not plant, the leaves of it get shrink. So, we feel that is also the movement of plants. But it is also included in the sense of living things. So, plants are also those living things that do not move. But why don't they move then? Because they are attached to the soil with the help of roots that prevents them from moving. The movement of touch me not plant, it comes under sense that I will explain you later on. Okay, we discussed about the movement of living things, but we can also see aeroplanes flying in the sky, right? And also the vehicles, they move from one place to the other, isn't it? So we have discussed living things show movement. Movement is also shown by aeroplanes, vehicles. So are they also counted as living things then? No. Obviously not, because aeroplanes, vehicles, obviously they move, they fly, but they do not fly on their own or they do not move on their own. They are directed by living things. They move under the control of living things. So, aeroplanes or vehicles, they are not counted as living things. So, now let's move to next point, that is living things grow. Yes, you were also an infant. I was also an infant. Now you have grown up to be a baby. And I have grown up to be an adult, isn't it? Our parents, they are growing old day by day. In the similar way, living things, they grow from smaller to bigger size. In the similar way, plants also, they are grown from seeds. When we sow a seed in the ground, then when the seed is nurtured daily with sufficient things like air, water and sunlight, it also starts developing and finally it turns out to be a mature plant. In the similar way, animals also. A puppy, it grows into a dog. A calf of a cow, it grows into a cow. So this is how the living things grow as well. But think of non-living things. Have you seen non-living things growing? No. Non-living things, they do not grow because the growth is seen in living things only. Living things grow is the second character that we have just discussed. Okay, now moving on to the third point, living things need food. Can you stay for so many days without having food? How can we think of days, isn't it? After some hours only we start feeling hungry. So, living things need food. Why do they need food? They need food to live, they need food to survive, they need food to work. Yes? Obviously, yes. Living things need food. Plants. Talking about the plants, how do they eat food then? We eat through our mouth. So, plants, how do they eat? They also absorb water from the roots. They take necessary air and sunlight, and that is how they can have their food. And green plants, they can prepare the food on their own. The green plants, they make food on their own. The process by which green plants prepare their own food is called photosynthesis. The process of photosynthesis helps the plants to prepare food. And in the similar way, there are some of the animals that feed only on plants. Some of the animals, they feed only on flesh. The food depends on the taste of the animals. Talking about ourselves only, some of us, we may be fond of one of the vegetable, whereas others may not like same type of vegetable, isn't it? So, the taste of living things also differ from one another and they need food. All the living things, they need food to survive, to live, to grow, to work. So, living things need food is next characteristics of living things. In the similar way, moving on to the fourth point, living things breathe. What is it? Taking in oxygen, throwing out carbon dioxide. Yes, that is the process of breathing. Living things breathe. Every living things breathe. We human beings, let's try. How long can we stay with our nose and mouth closed? Can we stay for a long time? No, we cannot. What happens? We start feeling difficulty. We start suffering from suffocation, isn't it? Yes, what does it show? We need air to breathe. Every living things, they need air to breathe. So, plants, how do they breathe then? Plants, talking about the plants, they breathe through small pores present on their bodies, and those small pores present on their bodies is called stomata. The stomata are the small pores present in plants. So, plants breathe in through stomata. We human beings, we have nose to breathe, but we also have lungs through which we breathe. Most of the living things, they breathe in through lungs, whereas there are also some of the living things that breathe through gills. Like, let's take the example of fish itself. Fish, they have gills to breathe inside the water. They are aquatic animals and they breathe in through gills. Similarly, insects, how do they breathe? Do you have any idea? You may be thinking of the answers. Yes, let me tell you. Insects, they have small holes on their bodies. Those small holes in their bodies help them to breathe, and those small holes present in their bodies are called air holes, or they are also called trachea. So, insects, they breathe in with the help of trachea or air holes. Is it clear up to here or not? We have already discussed 4 points. That is, first one, living things move. Second, living things grow. Third, living things need food. And fourth one, living things breathe. Okay, now moving on to the next point, that is living things reproduce. What is living things reproduce? What is reproduce here? What is the term reproduce here? We are also written the term here as well. So, what is reproduce? Reproduce is to produce babies. To produce the young ones is reproduce. Did we grow up directly into a young baby or an adult? No, we didn't. Our parents gave birth to us. Yes? Similarly, our grandparents, they gave birth to our parents. In the similar way, living things reproduce. Some of them, they reproduce by laying eggs, whereas some of them, they reproduce directly. They give directly birth to their young ones. Are you getting me? Especially the birds and insects, they reproduce by laying eggs, and mammals, they directly give birth to their young ones. Then what about the plants? Do you have question? Then how do plants reproduce? Plants also reproduce with the help of seeds, and some of the plants also they reproduce with the help of root, stem or leaves. Some of the plants are there that reproduce with the help of their root, stem or leaves as well, and obviously through seeds also. Okay, so we human beings, we directly give birth to our young ones. And here reproduce, let me tell you more clearly, it is also producing the young ones of its own kind. What does own kind mean here? Own kind means human. If they give birth to humans only, not to the animals. In the similar way, animals also, when they give birth to their own kind, to their own species. That is own kind. So, this is the point that we discussed. Similarly, next is living things have sense. We have 5 sense organs. Can you recall them? What are the sense organs? Like eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. Those are our 5 sense organs. Yes? and they have their own work. But here we are discussing living things have sense. Which sense organ help us to feel? Obviously our skin. Yes. So whenever we get scolded without any reason, do we feel hurt? Yes, we feel. We cry. Yes. And whenever, if you touch any hot objects, you quickly remove your hand away from that hot object, isn't it? Why? Because you have felt the hotness of that object with your hands. So that living things have sense. But if a table is beaten, or if I throw this marker away from here, does it get hurt? No, it doesn't. Why? Because it is a non-living thing and it doesn't have sense. So that living things, they have sense and they can react and feel in different ways. They show response according to the change in the surrounding as well. Like we human beings also, we living things also, we feel hot during summer and cold in winter. Why? Because we have the capacity to feel. We can feel the changes in the surrounding. So that living things, they have sense, but non-living things, they do not have sense as well. I hope you are noting down the points. Also, moving on to next one, living things excrete. Okay, what is excrete? You may be thinking, what might be excrete? Because this term may be new for you. Excrete means throwing out waste materials out of our body. That is excrete. The process of throwing waste materials out from our body is called excretion. So, what might be the waste materials that we throw? Living things, they throw waste materials in different forms like sweat, urine, stool, carbon dioxide. Those all are the waste products that are thrown out of the body by living things. Whenever we work for a long time in sunny days, we feel very sweaty. Yes, we feel very sweaty. What is the reason? That is also that sweat that comes out of our body is also the waste material. Similarly, early in the morning, everyone we go to restroom, we urinate, we throw the stool, isn't it? Those all are the waste materials that are thrown out of our body. So, living things excrete, and whenever we breathe also, we take in oxygen and carbon dioxide is thrown out. So, carbon dioxide is also the waste product of living things. Is it clear? Okay, if not, let me repeat it again. Living things excrete means, what does it mean is, living things throw waste materials out of their body in different forms like sweat, urine, stool, carbon dioxide. Those all are the waste materials that are thrown out by living things. Those all are the waste products. So, in a similar way, living things die. Living things die is also next characteristic of living things. Yes, we are not immortal. We do not stay here for, we are not here forever in this earth. We do have certain lifespan. We exist in this earth only for certain time. So, living things, they have certain lifespan. They have come here with a certain lifespan and they exist here in that certain period of time only. They grow, they get old and they die. Every living things die. Even the plants, animals and also we human beings, we die. So, the next point is living things die. Today we discussed on 8 characteristics of living things. The first one we discussed was living things move, living things grow, living things need food, living things breathe, living things reproduce, living things have sense, living things excrete, and living things die. Now, while comparing living things with non-living things, do non-living things produce any one of these characteristics? As I told, non-living things like aeroplanes, vehicles, also they show movement, but they are under the control of living things, so that they are not counted as living things. So, if we need to differentiate between living and non-living things, we can obviously say living things move, but non-living things, they do not move, they do not show movement. Living things grow, but non-living things, they do not grow. Living things need food, non-living things, no, they do not need food. Living things breathe, but non-living things, we haven't seen them breathing, so non-living things, they do not breathe. Living things reproduce, non-living things, they do not give birth to the young ones, so that they do not reproduce. Living things have sense, non-living things, whether they are beaten, whether they are thrown, they do not get hurt, they do not have sense. So, living things excrete. If non-living things do not eat anything, then how do they excrete? Yes? So, non-living things, they do not excrete as well. Living things die. Non-living things, they may get old, they may get damaged, they may get destroyed, but they do not die. Okay. In point number 1, we said living things move. But why do they move? Do you have any reason? Okay. Living things, they move from one place to the other in search of food or to save themselves from enemies. That is the reason why living things move from one place to the other. Okay. And next term we discussed here about stomata. What are stomata? Stomata are the small pores present in plants that help a plant to breathe. Similarly, we went through the term excrete as well. What is excrete? To throw out waste materials from our body is excrete. And reproduce is the process of giving birth to the young ones. That process is called reproduction. Hope this class became useful to you, and I guess everyone have noted down the points that I have explained to you. So, we will meet in next class again. Thank you.